What's up, everybody, and welcome back to our weekly podcast. We're on week 7, and apparently Jarvis returns. But with that being said, let's bring in my co-host, Mr. Improv Pete, so he can talk to you all about it.
How's it going, guys? Welcome. Welcome to our live Thursday show. We do this live every Thursday, talk to you all about great fantasy stuff that's coming last week, this week, all the weeks. I want to thank everybody watching here on YouTube, on Twitch, and now, as recently, our Facebook page.
There we go.
21 new fans in 21 hours. I'm going to say that 21 people in 21 hours, an hour a person. It was absolutely fantastic. So got a lot of love over there. So we're streaming to 3 different places now. Jrush, are you excited as I am?
I am. I was gonna bring Twitch up, but I forgot I'm charging my phone. It's over there at Narnia. So.
But Jarvis is returning today, and we're going to touch on that with the first game of the topic. But let's talk about last week, week 6. Any big news you comes to mind?
Well, let's talk about it. We had somebody stop in and ask about Kenneth Gainwell, and I feel good that I said don't play Gainwell. I don't know if he did, but I'm taking full credit on the not play Gainwell part because he didn't do anything.
Yeah, it was very true. Very true.
Last week was nothing out of the ordinary. I don't think, bye week started.
So, which, of course, the Saints, San Fran, Falcons, and the Jets, correct?
Correct. But that's where we should start getting into bye weeks. So now we'll all be dealing with that for the next 6 or so more weeks.
Yeah. Which, of course, bye weeks are actually interesting because people who are new to fantasy, at least when I see it, is that they get so excited because they draft this amazing team, and then bye weeks come and they are still learning and trying to add and drop. And I was like that very early on, especially in your league. I was learning how to deal with the bye weeks, but they could be a killer. They definitely could be a killer. That's why Jarvis Landry might be a pick to do this week, but we'll get there.
Well, let's just cover that real quick. So we got Buffalo, Dallas, Jacksonville, Chargers, Vikings, and Steelers all on a bye this week. So a lot of firepower.
Well, I heard Vikings in that.
Vikings,
Dalvin Cook
losing Josh
had a
Allen.
great game last week.
That he did, but you're losing out on the likes of Josh Allen, Diggs, Prescott, Cooper, Elliott, Mike Williams, Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Dalvin Cook, and Harris on Pittsburgh. All guys gone this week.
That's what I'm saying. And it's interesting because with the bye week, like Josh Allen has been fantastic for us, I believe, in the one league we're in co-managing.
Absolutely.
And it hurt that he's down because that's a good solid 30, 40 points a week, depending on the league that you're in. So you have to hit those waiver wires. And what me and Mr. J. Rush did was, I believe we picked up Tua.
We picked up Tua for the week, which hopefully will work out. But
so we're very hopeful. So that's a little.
There's also rumblings there that they'll be trading for Deshaun Watson, which is something that I was going to touch on some point. Which, if you want to go with it now, we can.
Yeah,
it wouldn't affect this week, but
let's go to the double box, see what's going on over here. Let me move some stuff out of your way. Boom. And back to here. So let's kick it off right now with tonight's game, which is the Browns versus the Broncos. Now, interesting topic also is Baker Mayfield, not the starting quarterback.
He is going to need shoulder surgery apparently in the offseason, but there's just too much this week for him to go through apparently. So you got Case Keenum starting, and you got a Browns team without Chubb, Hunt, and more than likely Odell Beckham tonight. To go with Mayfield, obviously. So you've got a real undermanned Browns team who, because the game is in Cleveland, are favored. As of Wednesday, I'm sure it changed, but as of Wednesday, when we do our picks, the Browns are favored.
Whew. I mean, Broncos, in all realisticness, should win this game. Like you said, the Browns very damaged right now. We don't really see good things coming out from Odell Beckham. Also, like I said, if you played the waiver wire, you got to take a risk right there with Johnson if you picked him up. I mean, that's a very hit or miss right there. You don't know what to expect. And of course, Casey Keenum, we talked about, when Josh Allen's on the bye, who do you turn to? Who do you look? You look at Tua, who, is a trusted quarterback. You don't know what Keenum you're going to get, if I think that's fair to say. You could see a big points or you could see not many. So it's definitely an underwhelming Brown team, like Mr. J. Rush said. So I'm going to go fully Broncos with at least 2 touchdowns.
I don't like when you go with these big numbers, but yeah, the Broncos should win the game. There is a super sleeper for this game due to injuries. His name is, I think it's Jameric or Demetric Felton. He's somebody that the Browns apparently want to get the ball more. He's kind of like a super flex for their team. He plays a little wide receiver, little running back. They get a couple screens to him. So with all these injuries, he's somebody that you can keep an eye on. I don't know how long Hunt and Chubb will be out, but if you plug and play for this week, if you're feeling risky, that might be a good place to look. Again, there's a lot of power on the bye week, so you might need to pick up somebody. And if you want to take a risk, that's a guy to look at for tonight.
That's a fair assessment. Now, of course, if you have questionable in Sunday, Monday, you're not gonna. It's more not a promising thing to take a Thursday night game. Obviously, you want to see as the days go on, but like Joey said, I would agree with that. Panthers, Giants. Giants are at home.
Yeah, whoop-de-doo.
Let's talk about McCaffrey not being around for a couple weeks. I don't know if it was last week, but I believe it was this week that he was officially now on the IR.
No, last week they put him on the IR on Friday. So
That was after our show, so
yes,
I called that right.
So he's out till I believe week 9 minimum.
Huge blow for fantasy owners.
Correct. And if you're one of the owners that have taken him at this point, you're probably used to both running backs on these two teams being hurt for the majorities of the seasons. So this is kind of like the injured running back bowl right here.
Let me tell you something. And Chad, I would urge you to call me out if you don't believe me. If I had the number 1 pick, and I think I said this in one of the first week of our podcast, is I would have taken Derrick Henry, and it just shows. The man is a beast. He just charges through. McCaffrey, too many injuries. Kamara, you don't know what that Saints team was going to look like. So, like with McCaffrey being out, you know what? Sorry, guys.
What about Dalvin Cook? Did you think Henry over Cook? Obviously now it looks completely different, but
if I would have taken off the season that King Henry had last year, yeah, I would have taken him over Cook. I think it would have been definitely the closest running back matchup, like by far. But I would still give the edge out to good old Titans and Derrick Henry.
I tweeted about the magazines. One magazine had him as you shouldn't take him before like 6th and expect a regression, that you shouldn't even take him in the first round, and the other one had him as number 1. So 2 books, completely different processes. One's looking good, the other not so much.
Mm-hmm. With a broken McCaffrey, do you see more lighting up the Giants? Do you see Robbie Anderson actually having a decent game for Carolina?
I do not see Robbie Anderson having a decent game. The Giants, on the other hand, are starting to get some receivers healthy, but the Giants are still a mess. I mean, I could see this game going either way because neither team is as good as – well, the Giants aren't as good as anything, but the Panthers started off real good and came back to normal. Sam's back to normal. So, you could get Jet Sam at any moment, which then gives the Giants a chance in this game because they have guys coming off injuries. But I don't see him being pretty any way, shape, or form. I could see either team winning the game. That's how bad both these teams are right now.
If I've ever had to make a low prediction, I think it would be just this. It is going to be a 12-9 Panthers game.
At this rate, and nothing would shock me because they could both have problems moving the ball.
Mm-hmm. I think the Panthers will edge out against the Giants, but unless you have, I believe Barkley is scheduled to play this week so far.
As of right
So,
now, but come
yeah, of
tomorrow,
course, things can
you'll
change.
know.
Like I said, definitely hit that waiver wire if you were looking at Booker. If somebody hasn't picked him up yet, especially with it looking good that Barkley's coming back. But it's definitely going to be, if Barkley is healthy, maybe the Giants have a nice game against
But again, if Barkley's
Carolina.
healthy,
But
how many times does he touch the ball? Is he coming back where he's 100% healthy, where you're not worried about him getting re-hurt like usual, or is this 80% Barkley and you're nursing him back? What are we looking at here? Because we've seen even 100%, alleged 100% Barkley look hesitant at times, and obviously hasn't
yeah,
killed it
but he's
in
looking
fantasy.
for that big fucking touchdown run. That's what that's his biggest problem. And he
Yeah,
looks
because that's
for
the point.
the hole so he could just dart out.
And
Maybe
that's the
when
point.
he was a young up and coming kid, obviously he's still young, but people weren't familiar with him. He just juked and jobbed, much younger, higher spirits. Now he's coming off a couple injuries. He's not the Saquon that we remember of greatness. So he's still trying to get that. Ooh, I need to be the best. I need to look for that hole so I can get that 80-yard touchdown. It's not happening. And that's good. He needs to wake up and see that. And if he does wake up and see that, the Giants could win this game. But if not, I've been very hesitant on Saquon for a couple weeks, and we've talked about it. And there's no secret. I've been chopping him around,
Well, he
but
needs to get paid, so he needs to start becoming a running back if he plans on getting paid.
mhm.
These flash in the pan, big play guys don't get paid. At running back. You don't see these running backs who are the third down specialist who could break a 50-yard screen pass. That's not what Barkley's supposed to be. So he needs to become a running back. My point is that when fantasy puts out there that he's playing this week and he's projected for 15 points and he's only playing at 75%, you're probably not getting that out of him
Yeah, maybe 9 at best.
right now. Maybe, and you need him to stay on the field healthy. So
So a lot of questions going into that, of course, Panther Giant game. What shouldn't be a question, and who I actually almost picked up this week. I might have actually picked him up for a quarterback, Mr. Jones over on New England versus your beloved Jets.
well, what excites you about? Well, again, we'll give you. We'll get in that. We'll give you a little bit of props, but
Yeah, I'm
Jo-
sorry. You're facing the Jets. What have they done to do anything this year to show a threat? It's the same
that
reason why I took the Carolinas defense this week in fantasy. You're going against the Texans. We'll get to that game soon, but the Cardinals are looking, excuse me, how the Cardinals are looking, there's no contest. But I see Jones really putting up a nice game. I'm not saying huge numbers, Russell Wilson, fucking Josh Allen, Mahomes style, but you can give me 20, 25 points. I see that coming from Jones this week against the Jets.
I'm just looking at his numbers because he did not do much against the Jets the first time he faced them. He put up 7.4 fantasy points the last time he faced them. That is usually about what you expect out of your quarterbacks, along 7 points. So I could see why you were looking to add him. Anyway,
You don't think he has a better game? Was that preseason or regular season?
no, that was week 2 against
Week 2.
the
Okay.
New York Jets. That elite New York Jets defense, where he put up a whopping 7 fantasy points.
Yes, but okay. So then,
Yes, so now we're 5 weeks later. So what? He got great, and the Jets defense. That's still the Jets defense fell apart. I'm going to give you a little insight on Mac Jones. He said his biggest fantasy week was 17.9
I'm on this. I'm on right now. 17.9. I see.
was his best fantasy week. But he's projected for 18 this week against the Jets, the same team that he put up 7 fantasy points. His accuracy has been pretty good for a rookie. He started last week, I think, 11 of 12. But again, so now your quarterback went 11 of 12 to start, and you got 15 fantasy points last week in a game where your team scored 29 points and lost. So what are you excited about Mac Jones for? I mean, go right ahead. I enjoy teams in my leagues, losing on purpose. So I will never, ever, ever stop you from adding Mac Jones. Notice how the league we're in together, we did not add Mac Jones. Just saying.
I'm glad you brought that up. Chad, I don't know if you're familiar from last week when I told him that Kirk Cousins was going to outperform Carson Wentz. And he said,
And
no,
this,
Wentz would be better. But in
and this is
fantasy points wise, Kirk Cousins was better. So I stand by it. Matt, Hugh Jones will at least put up 20 points. Easy. That's a guarantee.
This is the argument I've been waiting for. So my normal argument would have been that Carson Wentz only played 3 quarters of that game, which is fine. So again, we watched fantasy football shows today, and they were talking about this quarterback on a rise. And now all of a sudden, everybody's running to add him. Do you know what his name is? It's not Kirk Cousins. Oddly enough, he was such a great fantasy prospect. It's also
You're
not
saying
Mac Jones.
Carson Wentz, they were saying?
Carson Wentz is their quarterback on the rise. And over the last 3 weeks, since coming back off that weird little injury he had, they didn't think he was going to play that game, and then he played. So his last 3 weeks of that, which is one of those weeks, he's been a top 5 fantasy quarterback. And that's with only playing 3 quarters in one game as well. Not Kirk Cousins, not Mac Jones, not anybody. So if you're in a league where you had Russell Wilson, who's now out till probably week 10, so you need to have a quarterback, a foundational quarterback who can get you to the, staying in the hunt or whatever. Is Mac Jones your guy? Is Kirk Cousins on a bye week your guy? You want to pick up Kirk Cousins and play him this week? I guarantee you Carson Wentz will have a better week this week as well. It's weird.
You say Jones versus him. He'll have the better week.
No, I'm telling you that Carson Wentz again will outperform Kirk Cousins. The 2 reasons why Kirk Cousins outperformed last week was he needed to, for one, because his team is such garbage that they had to keep coming back in that game, and that Carson Wentz only played 3 quarters. Carson Wentz had 212 pass yards at halftime, and then they literally just shut it down because they dominated. It's like saying, "Oh, I have Tom Brady." And they won 48-0, and he only got me 18 fantasy points. And blah, 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 who lost 48-0, put up 30 fantasy points because he threw for 700 yards and 7 interceptions, is now better than Tom Brady. It's not the same. So in one lucky week, you're right, Kirk Cousins was the better fantasy quarterback.
I hope I have a good feeling on Jones. That's why I'm going to go with Patriots.
But now because you have a good feeling about Jones, I believe the league where you have Carson Wentz, and I'm pretty sure he's still out there for you, you did not pick up Mac Jones and put him in there. I'm waiting for this. I mean, you're projected to get your butt kicked anyway. Oh, you did put Mac Jones in. Good. So now you're really going to lose. I'm glad for this.
Am I facing you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's
so many leagues to keep track of.
It's not even – it's like I could probably bench Mahomes and still beat you. That's how bad your team looks this week.
Mahomes, fuck you. Patriots, Jets, who's winning? Let's go.
I would hope the Patriots could win the game, but if Mac Jones scores 7 fantasy points again like he did the first time, they're not covering.
Even in first place in your division?
Buffalo, have you heard of them?
Yeah, but is it close between any of the others? Like
How
the Dolphins?
The Dolphins are terrible. The Jets are terrible. The Patriots are terrible. Like, it's impossible for anybody to be close because the Patriots are the only team that's gotten to play the Jets.
That's fair. All right. I was just curious. Ravens, Bengals. Ravens are at home.
You excited? Because this could be one of these big offensive matchups.
It could be. And you know what? A lot of praise has been coming to Lamar Jackson lately.
He has said a lot of things that no one else has done before the age of 25, so that part does make sense.
So I definitely favor the Ravens in this game.
You excited about their 3 useless running backs who somehow keep getting the ball and they keep winning? They all had a touchdown last week.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing with the Baltimore Ravens. You don't know who's running the ball. Where is Lamar going to keep it running himself? Are you going to throw it Mark Andrews has been showing up the last couple of weeks in fantasy.
You are correct about that. It is National Tight End Week on Sunday, and Mark Andrews came out and said that he's going off.
So why wouldn't you? Right now, I would argue to say besides Travis Kelce, but Mark Andrews is putting in work as my tight end. What happened to George Kittle this year? Mark Andrews, I've always liked. He was great to me last year, and in the last couple of weeks, he's been looking great. And with Lamar just being on just fire, Mahomes looked like shit in September. We're coming into October. He is having his games, but Lamar's been looking consistent. You got some nice hookups in there. You got the running back game. I don't think anybody's stopping this Raven team anytime soon, and I don't believe that the Bengals will be that team. I expect 10 points Ravens.
I will not count Jackson as the running back, but as of right now, Devonta Freeman has averaged the most yards per rush out of the three, and that's kind of scary. Le'Veon Bell averaging 2 yards a carry is not a threat to anyone, but he got 8 carries last week. Latavius Murray only had 9, and Freeman only had 9. So if you're triple splitting those touches, you can't play a Ravens running back. So that part scares me a little bit, and I feel like outside of Andrews and Jackson, it's really hard to play anybody in their offense. Hollywood Brown started to show up last week.
I was going to talk to you about Hollywood Brown. Is he somebody? I mean, there was a lot of good graces going in the beginning of the season, but has he really shown up? I don't have him in any of my leagues, and I haven't heard that he's been good. I think last week, but
he was 4 for 35 last week with I think he fumbled, to be honest. Maybe he didn't. No, he didn't. But that's what I mean. He got 5 fantasy points last week in a game where they scored 34 points.
But Mark Andrews, I think, had easy double digits.
Mark Andrews had 61 yards and a touchdown. So that sense right there was already 12 points. I think it's 5 for 61. So 14 and a half or so.
But definitely, talk to me about good old Bengals. Anybody play there? You think Joe Mixon coming in, having the game of his life?
You can play their offense. Joe Mixon's dealing with a throat problem, but they don't think it's going to hinder him calling plays. So, assuming their offense shows up, it's hard not to play their offense. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Mixon, Burrow. Hard not to play those guys.
Look at Chase. Him and Burrow have been just having a connection back from college years.
That's why I think that teams should do that more often. Miami did it, and even though we didn't really get into them looking at Watson, they did it. They took Waddle to go with Tua. So teams need to start doing that more often.
It's working out well. I still think the Ravens do edge out the win, though.
I don't think the Ravens won't win the game. I'm just saying this could be one of the higher scoring games.
Yeah, 100%.
Obviously, there's one coming up that might be high scoring, but
That is indeed. Packers versus Washington. Packers are at home.
Yep, and Washington's look terrible, and your boy owns the Bears. Will he own Washington this week? I mean, the obvious answer is yes, but will they cover a 9.5 point spread is the real question.
I'm going to look something up real quick. I'm going to just tell you
how amazing Aaron Rodgers is, even though you hate him and you drafted him anyway.
I'm not talking about Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, I just checking.
I'm talking about Devontae Adams.
Washington's offense is a real yikes, which is funny because I read an article saying players you should trade for, and Terry McLaurin's one of them. Which I'm not saying Terry McLaurin's not a great receiver, but they need to be able to get him and Gibson the ball. Ricky Seals-Jones had a nice week, and he'll be a player going forward for their offense, but they need to get the playmakers the ball as much as they can. So let's hear about Adams.
So Adams last week only had 10 points. And then the week before he had the 35, then 9, then 28. So he's either big game or.
So he's your roller coaster.
He has been a roller coaster. But, you have Washington this weekend, like you said. What's going on with that offense? And the Packers, ever since losing game 1 to the Saints, I don't believe they've lost a game.
That would be correct. This is
So
not going to be one of them.
like and especially being in Lambeau Field, how the fuck do you not see the Packers winning this? I mean, I think it is going to be a great fantasy day for Rodgers, but I know he's going to share the ball. And yeah, you'll see some Aaron Jones. Yeah, you'll see some Devontae Adams. But good old Scatling been getting a lot of receptions lately. So he'd
So
be
does that
somebody.
mean you're ready to drop Randall Cobb? Is that what I'm hearing?
Maybe.
In that love story, you were so obsessed. Oh, Randall Cobb.
Maybe Randall Cobb goes off today. The homecoming in Lambeau. I mean, it sounds great to me, doesn't it? But I definitely think Aaron Rodgers have a lot of weapons that he utilizes on that team, and hopefully the tight end, fingers crossed, for fantasy does well. I definitely think it will be a high score game for the Packers. Washington, not so much.
What's the tight end's name? I want to know.
Tyon.
Without looking him up.
God,
if he picks his guys and he doesn't even know who they are.
You know what, sir? You tell me anybody on the Saints.
How did I
pick up this bastard?
His first name is ESPN is the answer. His first name is Robert, and his last name is Tanyan.
What I said, Tanyan. See, thank you. I appreciate you.
Nailed it. Anyway, okay. So now, because you don't know him, he's not having a good week. So I'm going to text him that, tell him to tank, tell him to get Mercedes Lewis all the touches, so you can run and pick him up next week.
Always.
But moving along,
Packers 10.
We got the big scoring game here. Hopefully, the big scoring game.
I would hope so, sir. You got one of the best quarterbacks and the best receiver, in my opinion.
You got two offensive juggernauts, even with Ryan Tannehill sabotaging the Titans for the most part. Maybe the defense has been great. Mm-hmm. The over-under for this game is 57.5. That could be easily blown away, which is sad because that means both teams are scoring in the 30s. I think that's an over game.
I see one of these teams hitting 40.
If not both. Why they can't. But my point is that's 30 points each, and if one of those teams is 40, that's only 20-something points. Not even. That's 17, 18 points for the other team to cover. So I'm thinking this is an easy over game. And it should be another big week for Derrick Henry. His Chiefs defense is not great. The same thing, there's no reason not to start Mahomes, Hill,
Travis Kelce. This is the game where let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, and Mr. Jrush, tell me if I'm wrong. This is the game you want to play some players in if you're on bye week.
You want action in this game, which I thought
you're going to get action from this game.
Which I was a little surprised by because, again, I watched Good Morning Football this afternoon, and the sit-em list, there's only 2 wide receivers, and one of them was Mecole Hardman. So I don't know if they think that the other weapons are just going to get the ball so much in that game that Hardman will not get the points, or some other reason.
I'm
sure you're predicting for 9, which is the same as every other week.
First couple of weeks, interesting fact for Travis Kelce, 20-point games. Love it. But then you have, the next couple where not hitting his points. So especially with the Hardman, I would think that maybe they want to show some more love to Travis Kelce, show some more love to Tyreek Hill. He's been having some great weeks. Mahomes can really get the ball out there, Not saying that he's not going to throw the ball to Hardman, but I definitely see him the lesser of those 3. So,
but they have been spreading it out more. Pringle had a touchdown last week, and some others. So, I mean, maybe they feel like that's going to take away a little bit from Hardman. But we will see, because this is definitely a week where you're going to want to play probably the guys. The one thing I want to touch on is, if anybody's got an opinion on this, is I made a trade. A couple of different factors to this trade. One mostly because I have them 3 times. A guy offered me a trade, DK Metcalf for A.J. Brown, 1-for-1, and I accepted. And you know how much I love A.J. Brown, but like I said, one of the deciding factors is I do have A.J. Brown 3 times. What are your thoughts on that trade?
I love it. I know right now it might not look good with a good old Gino, but I think in the long run, I think that is a stronger play because Lockett, yes, is the number one on Seattle, and he does get the ball, but Metcalf still puts up points. People have to understand he is a points. But with AJ Brown, you have the dangerous Julio Jones on the other side. Now, Julio Jones has been injured a little bit. I understand, but still putting up some big. I think he got a touchdown last week. I was sitting with I think 11, 12 points on my bench right there. So you have these big weapons, especially King Henry running. So obviously, if you were in that situation like Jrush with the multiple AJ Browns, I think that's a no-brainer trade. I love it. I think you will win out in the end, sir. 100%
Yeah,
with
it's not like
Metcalf.
Wilson's out for the year, and like I said, I had
Exactly.
Brown 3 times, and Metcalf, even when Gino Smith last week had 7 targets, he caught 6 of them. So it's not like he can't produce anyway.
And he's an end zone guy. You know he is. So that right there, even if he's not getting the catches right away, you know he could be looked at that touchdown marker. So I think in this game, it's going to be a tough one. I could see either team winning, but I see that at least 80 points on that scoreboard.
I think that this game, I think the Chiefs. I don't think the Chiefs cover. I think the Chiefs will win, but I don't think they cover. I think the Titans will keep this game close, and as usual, having the best running back in football helps control the game, control the clock. So I think that's what's going to keep this from being a blowout by Kansas City, unless they can miraculously stop Henry.
So this is the game to watch.
I would think so. Which every time that happens, it turns into a dud. But this should be the game to watch of the week.
You know what isn't the game to watch for the week?
Yes, the battle of who wants to win a game. I know they both
Atlanta
have a win, but
versus Miami. Now, the Dolphins are home. Now, we talked about this earlier in the week in our joint league that we co-manage. We were looking at quarterbacks, and we brought up Tua, and we brought up who was the other one? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. Oh, good Lord. You got to help me here, sir.
It was ugly. I don't know if we brought up a second quarterback. I think it was Baker Mayfield was hurt because we had.
Oh, yeah. Before he was hurt, we were saying. But, I mean, this game, what's going on over in Atlanta? Obviously, you have no hopes of winning. I mean, I understand that. You have the Bucks, you have the Saints, and to be fair, you have Carolina. But the Atlanta, I mean, what are you doing here, Matt Ryan? What's going on? What is the next year for this franchise? Yeah, they're getting a win, but are they going to beat the Dolphins, which is also in a very shitty division, but has a young quarterback coming back from injury, very hungry. I see the Dolphins edging it out. But like me and Mr. J Rush, if you have quarterback trouble, maybe Tua is not a bad option to play.
Well, we took Tua there, but I went the other route as well in my league. So I get that a bye last week. So the last 2 games he's played, Matt Ryan has also been a top 5 fantasy quarterback, which no one in their right mind would ever believe, but it's facts. So I'm not saying he played any good teams, but he's been a top 5 fantasy quarterback. So it looks like maybe he's getting something going. He'll have his receivers back. He has Pitts still. Pitts had a breakout game in London. Can they ride that momentum? Cordell Patterson's been great for them. You Mike Davis owners are probably going to have to look somewhere else. I know that Patterson's not a traditional running back, but he's eating up touches, and Mike Davis isn't producing with his touches. So
it's definitely hurt my fantasy. Definitely hurt my fantasy, Mike Davis.
Absolutely has it. Mike Davis was great last year replacing McCaffrey, but completely different build of a team. The Panthers could use Mike Davis back, and Mike Davis probably could do with not being on the Falcons right now because his run style isn't fitting their play style.
That is a fair assessment. With that said, like I said, Dolphins edging it out. I don't know about you, sir, but
I'll lead into this one. because I know you're excited for this. It's the Jared Goff Bowl. Not the Matt Stafford Bowl. It's the Jared Goff Bowl. Are we excited? The return of Jared Goff to
I hate
face
both these quarterbacks.
the Rams with a 15.5-point spread. Can he do it? Can Jared Goff, the turnover machine, break down this Rams defense? And Aaron Donald, can he do it?
No.
No, he can't. They might luck out and cover the spread. I don't see any shot in the hell that they win this game.
Not a chance.
Lions have fallen on bad luck, but this is just one of those games where every facet, the Rams are just better. Like, Darrell Williams is proving that he's a legitimate running back, even though I know eventually Cam Akers will come back from injury next season or whatever. That's an issue for them to worry about then. But as seen by injuries, you can never have too many running backs, but Henderson's proving, and even though he's been banged up, he's still putting up fantasy numbers. So he's proving that he's a legitimate running back. The Lions have a legitimate running back too. The problem is the quarterback kills everything they do. I did get a fantasy question this week, which is in this game. The question was, do you play Amon St. Brown or TJ Hawkinson? Both Lions players.
Hawkinson, in my opinion.
On paper, it sounds like Hawkinson. The reason I said Hawkinson is only because if Jalen Ramsey covers Brown, it's game over for him. He's been their most consistent receiver the last 3 weeks. But again, Jared Goff's your quarterback. I would go any other route I possibly could. I get it that they're going to need to score points. Can they score points is really the question. And if they do, it'll probably revolve around the running backs.
Is Cooper Kupp taking Robert Woods' job as the number one receiver on that team? Look at last week.
He's been
What are
the
your
number one
thoughts on
receiver.
that, sir?
He's been the number one receiver every year. There's no is he taking. Robert Woods has been the number two. Robert Woods does all the little things that Cooper Kupp does not do. He blocks. Well, I'm not saying Cooper Kupp doesn't block. Cooper Kupp does not block as well as Robert Woods does. That's why you'll see Robert Woods on the field, especially late game, if you're milking the clock. Yes, Cooper Kupp is the number one receiver, hence why he's ranked as the number one ranked receiver on that team. There's no question arguing that. But guess what? A lot of teams run 2-3 receivers, so it's not a big deal. Is he the number one as getting the touches? Sure. But you could say the same thing about a team like the Vikings. Is Adam Thielen the one? Or did Justin Jefferson take the one from him? You have Adam Thielen in the league, so that's almost the same question.
Fair point. Raiders versus the Eagles.
This is not the Jared Goff Bowl. Could be in the future, but it's not.
By the way, Rams 2 touchdowns. My apologies. Raiders, Eagles.
So again, it's in Vegas, 3-point spread. You get 3 points being a home team, so this game is even. What do you think? Who's winning this game outright then? Is Jalen Hurts coming to play? He puts up good fantasy numbers, does not put up good quarterback numbers. Or is this another Derek Carr week where he
goes to Waller,
spreads it around, throws for 350, they control the ball, they win? Which side are we on?
I will give the edge to Raiders because they are home. I don't think the Eagles have been looking as strong as they should be. I think that team is still figuring itself out, and it may take a couple more weeks. But I think the Raiders are hungry. They were looking strong in the beginning. They want to make sure they pick up some momentum. And like you said, Derek Carr can have a 350 game. You go to Waller, that's a trusted tight end, We're talking about strong tight ends. You put Waller in there any day. And I think it's not going to be a pretty game by any means, but I do think the Raiders will take.
I don't think it will be either. The Raiders just have so many weapons. It's hard to keep them down, especially when the Eagles don't have a great defense. They have pieces on defense. They don't have a full defense. The Eagles' weapons on offense, on the other hand, are not being used. You saw Kenneth Gainwell got like 0.6 fantasy points last week. Miles Sanders finally showed up, but guess what? That's week 6. You've gotten now one useful fantasy week, maybe 2 out of Miles Sanders. That's not a great thing for a
hurting. He's hurting.
RB2/3. Depending on the scoring and league points, you're not getting production out of either running back. Smith, who's clearly their number one, hasn't done much. The bright side is it seems like after Zach Ertz had a game and then they traded him away, seems like Dallas Goedert will be back. So that'll give him another weapon. But again, they're not. Jalen Hurts is not providing running backs and receivers with much fantasy. He's providing himself with it because he's running and getting touchdowns. But he's not, you're not going to go in there where Derek Carr gets you 350 easy. That's not happening with Jalen Hurts. He might get you 150 and then, 85 rush yards, which in fantasy purposes looks great, assuming he's not turning the ball over. But in real football purposes, it's not winning you games.
Bucks are home.
Here's big spread number 2. Here's big spread number 2. It's in Tampa.
I think this is a blowout.
I got something for you. You're going to get real excited. Gronk is on the practice field.
Send him a week.
He's not particularly practicing, but he's made his way onto the practice field.
He just put his foot there. He's like, I'm good.
So I know you're itching, waiting for Gronk to get on the field so you can tell me how
amazing
he is.
To have a game. That's what I want. And
you may get that wish because Antonio Brown also hasn't practiced all week.
I'm hoping, but the last couple of weeks, not saying that he doesn't deliver, but I need big numbers from him sometimes. He's getting me between 10 and 13.
Well, if you take Brown and Gronk out, that leaves it to Evans and Godwin, so might get bigger fantasy points weeks set up. But I feel like that's another where Tom Brady is the guy type of thing. He's got all these weapons. You might get a Brown 1 week and then Evans 1 week and a Godwin 1 week, but having one of them in whole, you're getting 15 1 week, then 6, and then 18, and then 2, where Brady, he, boom, 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 whoever throws it to, it doesn't affect you, where like Brady is the piece to have and the other guys aren't. Seems like Leonard Fournette is the guy to have, so maybe Brady and Fournette. And receivers, you're kind of like...
They have been working nicely out there in Tampa.
Yeah, once they decided, let's use common sense and use the better running back, and boom, look what's
happened. Jones was never the best running back out of those two.
He never was, but they put so much stock into him early on. He got hurt, and it's like, oh, Jones is going to be the guy, and he still wasn't good.
I remember when Fournette was on the Jaguars, let me tell you, and he was great then, and he's still a great running back, and it's nice because it takes away from Brady throwing the ball, and it also takes away from him having to run around. You have a great, strong back.
Being able to run the ball opens it up for your passing. Don't get me wrong, Brady will take his deep shots down the field. He's not going to throw the ball 80 yards down the field like Mahomes and guys like that, but he'll take a 40-yard shot. Running the ball will open that up. If he completes them, that's a big play. A lot more you've seen more of Antonio Brown getting that play, but like I said, he hasn't practiced all week. Leading into today, I'm not going to look into their stuff to be like, oh my God, Antonio Brown practiced today. If he practices tomorrow, he'll play. It's as simple as that. Friday's obviously the big day. But all I'm saying is that Brady's got plenty of weapons no matter who plays, and he'll spread it around, and Leonard Fournette will do his thing.
Solid Tampa Bay week against the Browns.
It's scary, though, because the spread is 12.5, and the over-under is only 47. So what are you looking at? You're looking at, 35-14 Bucks where you slightly go over and they easily cover the spread. Like, yikes. I feel like it's either going to be a lot more scoring game or the Bears just aren't going to score at all.
I don't think the Bears are going to score at all, and I see 35 points from the Bucks. That's easy.
So with that being said, Williams might play this week coming off the COVID list. If he doesn't, are you starting Herbert again? I mean, you're starting Herbert again right now at this minute anyway, but if you had the option to not play or to play Herbert, would you risk him this week against the Bucks?
In my situation, I would have to. I have nobody.
No, I'm saying is if you had the option. If they say, hey, we're not going to play Williams again this week, so Herbert's the number one, and you had an option, is Herbert your guy? Coming off of realistically 2 strong games,
Yeah,
one he
I'd play
one
him.
he didn't
There's
play
no
the
reason
full
not
week.
to.
Okay, that's all I want to know is do you have enough
Even
faith
though
in him?
Tampa Bay is a good team, I will say, but it's also something where
They are, but their defense wasn't what they were.
Yeah, oh,
Their
100%.
defense last year, etc.
But I definitely, I would play. I would expect if you can give me 10, 15 points, I'd be happy with that. Give me 40 yards and a touchdown. Call it a day.
Tampa gives the 8th fewest rush yards to running backs this season.
The 8th?
8th fewest.
Okay.
So they're in the top half of the league at shutting down the run.
Well, let's fuck them up tomorrow or Sunday, Chicago.
Which I'm going to be nice to you for a minute just because I'm on your fantasy team to check that. And even though I'm playing you and I'm not at all scared of destroying you, you have Ayuk out there who is the other receiver on the do not play list at flex and Jarvis Landry on your IR. So I'm giving you the chance. Are you putting Jarvis Landry in before we forget and end up going out to dinner? Because I don't want to hear excuses that you wanted to play Landry and you lost because you didn't play Landry. I'm giving you fair opportunity. So are you putting Jarvis Landry in at flex?
Yeah.
All right. I'm just letting you know that you haven't yet. So I'm giving you the opportunity.
I appreciate
will carry the show for a minute while you do that if you really need to.
Well, I'll talk about this next game because let me tell you something. I can't wait to.
We know you can't wait to. On the stardom list, though, for this week is AJ Green, which, trust me, I've loved AJ Green his whole entire career. I know he's coming towards an end. Only because of the team they're playing. I don't think you can play AJ Green this week because A, Hopkins is going to want to crush them. Rondell Moore's been doing his thing, and Christian Kirk's been doing his thing. So now you're really pushing. And I'm going to say this as a Kyler Murray is also the other option. So realistically, AJ Green is their 5th option this week. That's why I do not like playing AJ Green. They might prove me wrong. They might beat the Texans by 50, and everybody got work in. But you got a revenge game for Hopkins, who is going to want to really stick it to the Texans, and I wouldn't be shocked if he scores 2 touchdowns. So if you get 2 touchdowns from him, Christian Kirk's been pretty solid at scoring touchdowns. So you give him a touchdown, that's already 3 touchdowns. So you already got, assuming you got a kicker who can make an extra point, which he can. He apparently can't make 65-yarders, which kills me in fantasy. But he should make his extra points. You already at 21-0 right there. So I think that I wouldn't trust AJ Green this week, even though the experts are saying to play him. Now, you can go off on your 45-minute tangent about how amazing Kyler Murray is, yet you never drafted him and or traded for him. But go ahead. I want to hear about it.
The Arizona Cardinals are having a fantastic season, and it will just continue when they decimate the Texans. Now, I want to point out, like Mr. Jrush said, Hopkins going to go apeshit on the Texans. I at least see 3 touchdowns. I think he's going to be a vocal point. They're going to try to shut him down. And guess what? When they do, you have other players at the mercy. When you mean AJ Green. Now, fantasy experts do say to play AJ Green. Is he on my bench right now? I could play him over Jarvis Landry. But in hindsight, AJ Green was yesterday's news. I would not play him personally. Years ago, absolutely. I think I took him in one league one year, first overall, if I'm not mistaken. I think in the second year in your league, something like that. But the Cardinals are going to at least win by 3 touchdowns. You guys are crazy. They're home. Nobody is stopping this team. They are the greatest team on paper and on the field right now. The Texans sure as hell ain't going to do it. They got to figure out their own shit. Done with what I have to say. Cardinals 47, Texans 0.
Davis Mills came off as a nice little story. His first start, He threw a touchdown, no interceptions. Then his next game, he threw 4 interceptions. So now you're like, okay, what is Davis Mills, the NFL quarterback, or is he Sam? So he comes back against the Patriots, goes 21 of 29 for 3 touchdowns. So you're like, okay, he's a quarterback option. And then against those Colts, the Colts where Carson Wentz got a nice day off from, he threw another 2 interceptions, no touchdowns, and scored 8 fantasy points. So you got Tyrod Taylor on the way back. He's not back yet. Davis Mills is showing that, at least with this team, he's not really a viable threat. He's had 1 really good passing game, and it's against New England. 1 okay passing game, and 4 horrible passing games. So, will they score points? Possibly. That 1 receiver they have that's not named Brandon Cooks. I'm not saying Brandon Cooks having a bad year, but I believe his name is Chris Moore. Pretty sure his last name is Moore. He's proving that he could be an NFL player. I think it got called back. The week before, he had 5 catches for 109 and a touchdown. I think he had a big touchdown last week called back as well. But he's showing that he might be a guy who could sneak in on the fantasy radar and be like a late season acquisition, bye week acquisition. But Davis Mills is just not getting it done. And with those running backs, I know Mark Ingram was nice way back when. I just don't see them being competitive at all in this game. Like I said 2 touchdowns out of Hopkins. I don't know if you're saying 3 out of him. Either way, it wouldn't surprise me. No matter what, it wouldn't surprise me. He's he wants to stop all over them. So I could see them. I hope the Texans score. A couple points.
Brandon Cooks, baby.
It's the NFL. The Jets, I believe, get shut out, but it's the NFL. I think they should score a couple points. But I could see this being a massacre. This is one of those games where if you're Kyler Murray owner, you're excited because he's going to put up fantasy points, but this might be the same thing like Carson Wentz, where you only get 3 quarters out of Kyler Murray, so you hope his 3 quarters are enough.
For Phil, yeah, I agree.
Which again, if Hopkins goes off like we're expecting, I'm sure he will. It just sucks because if this was college football, they would have ran up 80 points on him and not gave a damn. But it's a nice juicy matchup for probably almost all the players on the Cardinals offense.
49ers versus Colts. 49ers are at home.
Again, this is one of those games. The Colts offense is clicking right now. And as I said, Carson Wentz is a nice quarterback to add. 49ers defense is still legit. Jimmy Garoppolo is expected to play. Trey Lance is not expected to play. So you got a banged up Jimmy Garoppolo, who is also a roller coaster in life. The 49ers defense legitimately may need to win them the game, and that's why I think the Colts could upset this game. Because think about it, Jonathan Taylor is what we expected. Took him number 1 overall in a keeper league. Not number 1 overall pick, but he was your first round pick in a keeper league. Carson Wentz has been really good of late. Michael Pittman does his thing. And now T.Y. Hilton's back. So you're just giving Carson Wentz weapons. So if you keep Carson Wentz upright, Colts got a real good chance in this game.
Everything you said was perfect. I definitely think if Wentz, has that nice connection with Pittman, like the sky's the limit for this team. And the 49ers, it's not saying they look terrible, but if the Colts put together a nice offense, there's no reason why the Colts can't walk away with this dub.
The only ugly thing I saw was, again, on the sit-em list was Mo Alley Cox, who's their tight end. But I think that's more of because of the 49ers defense, not because of the Colts offense, where they're saying to sit him this week. But he's been producing as well, and he's been one of those guys where you get like 3-4 straight weeks out of him with a touchdown, and then he goes into the abyss for a little bit. But I'm just saying is they have weapons. If they can protect Wentz, again, that division's it's the Titans and them. They've got a shot at being a playoff team. They need to 100%. Prove it now. They need to come out and show, hey, we're a legit team.
This game is a difference by a touchdown.
Who?
The Colts, 49ers. Touchdown. Makes this
No.
game.
Who though? The 49ers win by touchdown?
Colts. No. Colts by 7.
Okay, so you think the
My
Colts
apologies.
will pull the upset?
Yeah.
I like I said, I think they easily can pull the upset. Will they? I really do hope that they do because I like their offense a lot. I know they have some injuries on the O line, which is scary, which is why you could see, a team like this where maybe a Taylor or Wentz does struggle. But if they're playing right and enough of their starters are healthy on the line, they can control the ball too. And they can move the ball. So I think this is definitely a week. The Colts pull this upset. That's big momentum for them.
Nice Sunday night game. Definitely something to keep your eye on. Monday night game.
Not so nice Monday night game. So let's go with the real question because we know what Seattle's doing. They got Gino.
What happened?
We're going with the real question. So is Jekyll showing up or is Hyde showing up? Which Jameis Winston are we getting?
In Seattle, I'm afraid.
You think the fans will be that much of a factor?
I think
Seattle's
they
defense
will be.
has not been good, as seen pretty much every single week. So this would be a week. I considered it for a split second about adding Jameis this week. Went against it. This is a week where Jameis does not do, Jameis does Jameis things in the good sense and not the bad sense, or is this a Jameis week where you get a mixed bag of goodies?
But that's the thing. We find out within the first 15 minutes of the game what Jameis we get.
That is true, but that's also the problem.
Exactly. So
Because that dramatically changes the game. If he puts them down 14-0 in either direction, if he puts the Saints up 14-0, you're like, boom, okay, the Saints are winning this game. If he throws 2 picks and he puts the Saints down 14-0, now he's got to be risk taker, Jameis, and
that's not good.
that's not what you want.
Not at all. This game, this is I do think that Seattle will get to Winston. I really do. I think that it's just they're coming off the bye, but it's also that Kamara hasn't been performing for fantasy owners as much as he should be.
So let's backtrack it. Kamara's projected for 20 points this week. Is this a Kamara week where he scores 20 points? Coming off a bye, so if he was nicked up at all or anything, he's had the rest. Is this a Kamara takes over this game type of week?
Well, it depends if they have their faith in Jameis. You said, I believe, on your little fantasy football morning show, didn't they say that one person that you should consider playing is Callaway on the Saints?
They had him as a deep sleeper. Was Callaway?
Do you think that maybe that they don't go to Kamara? Yeah, you get those little shove passes and the screens, but do you maybe see them saying, no, we're going to have you throw at Jameis? You're going against Gino Smith, who, granted, didn't look terrible, but it's also a rookie where I could see Jameis being a little hot-headed, but again, I bring it back to it's in Seattle. I would say Saints 100% are winning this game in New Orleans. 100% in my mind, that would happen. But if you're going to Seattle, I think the crowd's going to be too much. I think Gino didn't look bad. I think they're just going to be working out the kinks over in Seattle. I see Seattle win this by a touchdown.
Seattle.
How do you think that makes me feel?
Technically unfair. Well, I'm going to throw the stats out there, and then we'll talk a little more. So Jameis on the season is 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So no way, shape, or form is that bad.
No.
And especially for him, that's really good.
It's 75%. I'll take that.
The things I want to talk about now are, so, again, he had 12 touchdowns. In 2 of the games, he had 9 of his touchdowns. So in that 3-game stretch where he didn't have 4 touchdowns and 5 touchdowns, he had 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He went off week 1, which on paper looked great. But realistically, he went 14 of 20 for 148 yards and 5 touchdowns. So he wasn't lighting it up there. The next week, he came out and only threw for 111 yards and 2 interceptions. So now you're on week 3. He threw for 128 yards this time, but 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So you're like, okay, what are we getting? 100-yard passer? So then they go play the Giants, a game they lost against a bad Giants team.
Mhm.
But now Jameis was 17 of 23, 226, no interceptions, had 1 touchdown. So okay, now he's starting to throw the ball, and they're starting to spread the offense. Where now Callaway and guys like that are becoming useful. The last game they played Washington. So again, like I said, Jameis has been good passing, 17 of 23, 14 of 20. Those are fine completion percentages. He went 4 touchdowns that game. He went 15 of 30 passing against Washington. He threw for 279 yards and 4 touchdowns, which is nice, but he went 15 of 30 in that game against obviously a real bad defense. That is what scares me. The 4 touchdowns and 279 look real nice. And a lot of that passing yards was on that Hail Mary at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
But 15 of 30 against Washington. Completion-wise, he had the week against Carolina where it was also 50%. Realistically, this is, he threw the ball more in this game. Realistically, that was his worst passing week. It's his best yardage week, but his worst, completion percentage week. So I need to see what Jameis is coming out. And the worst part about it is they have a Monday night game at Seattle. And do you know who they play the next week?
I would have to check.
Well, I have the answer. Tom Brady.
Ooh.
So you go to Seattle, and then you get to play Tom Brady the next Sunday. So Jameis needs to show up, and they can't look ahead. Oh, we're playing Gino Smith. We're looking ahead to Tom Brady. Because then you're going to lose to Gino Smith, and then you're going to lose to Tom Brady. So I need to see a coming out party for Gino. I mean, not Gino, for Jameis. I mean, I'd like to see a coming out party for Gino too, but Jameis needs to handle his business this week. Because in a season where there's an extra game and an extra wild card, there's no reason why the Saints can't make the playoffs, sneak in as a wild card.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So he needs to, because the next week, right now they're sitting at 3-2. You win this game, you get to 4-2. Then you got to play Tom Brady. That's not good. But then you play Atlanta right after that.
Which is a hella good.
Yeah. But then, again, the same thing. Right after that, you play the Titans. And even though Ryan Tannehill's been bad, the Titans are a better team than you. And then 2 weeks after that, the Saints had the worst schedule. It's like one tough game, 1 week game. One tough game, 1 week game. It goes Atlanta, Tennessee. So you're like, great. Then it goes Philly, who sucks, and then Buffalo. So you're like, God, this kills. And that's on I believe that's a Thanksgiving game too. So you get a short week playing Buffalo on Thanksgiving. And then you play Dallas right after that. So you get 2 tough games back to back, and then you play the Jets. So you're like, oh, sleeper Jameis will go off. So then you get rewarded by playing the Jets by playing Tom Brady right after that again. So
like I said to you, I think it's Seattle's more of a threat being at home. If this was home, I think Saints would have had it in the bag, like I said before. Seattle being home, all the pressure, not that noise in that stadium. Like you said, Jameis has to show up, and it's make or break. If he loses here and he loses against Brady, is Taysom Hill going to be the new quarterback?
No,
God, I would hope so.
He will not be the quarterback. If Jameis can't win these games that they should win this year, he will not be the quarterback next year. Taysom Hill will not be the quarterback either way. But what I'm saying is if he can't win these games, the Falcons games, the Jets games, these games that he needs to win, like you lost to the Giants. So that's one negative right there. So if you yeah, okay. This week, yeah, absolutely. But that doesn't say much because it's not even a starting quarterback. There's 12 quarterbacks in the thing. But
Like
realistically, he needs to win those games because the Saints need to prove that they can compete without Drew Brees, for one. You'll get Michael Thomas back eventually. So they need to show that they can be a team without Drew Brees. If not, if they need an elite quarterback to win, they're in trouble. Then they better be the team trading for Watson.
I don't think top 12. I like I said, I agree. I think this is going to be definitely a game I'm watching, obviously, but I definitely think this game could go either way. But like I said, I give Seattle definitely the edge. It pains me. It pains me.
I'm not going into that, Chris. I'm going with towards the end of the season when you're playing. You close it out here with Carolinas and Atlantas and the Jets late in the Saints season, where Michael Thomas will be back. Those are games that they have to win. They have Michael Thomas. There's no excuse that late in season. I get it that they got to play the Bucks, but you go on a run where you play the Jets, the Bucks, the Falcons, the Panthers. Like you gotta. There's one loss in there. They got to win all those other games. And if they don't, like I said, he's not going to be the quarterback next year. And that's going to be the problem is, do they pull the trigger on Watson, let the NFL do their thing, suspend him, whatever, and you have Watson next year? Or do you wait, let the Dolphins trade for Watson, and now you're scrambling for quarterback next year because Jameis needs to be replaced?
I think this is our longest one yet.
This is because we got to get in this damn Saints conversation about how they need Drew Brees back.
God, if only, if only. We come to the final little portion. Joe questions. Any questions for Joe? Any questions anywhere? Let us know.
Rookie would be a good spot, but yeah.
But we'll see what happens today. Let's go, Jarvis Landry.
Did you put Jarvis Landry in? Did you finally do it?
All the greatness.
Maybe Jarvis Landry should play quarterback for them tonight. We know he can throw.
Oh, we have a question.
I'm going to give you the answer you're not going to like, and Yahoo's on board with it. They put out a players you should start to cut, and Myles Gaskins was number 1 on that list. I do not see being able to play him. And realistically, any of the running backs, I think they're becoming a throw team. So I would not play him. I know it's a bad week where all these good running backs have buys. I said I would probably look towards that Browns guy over Gaskin, to be honest. Felton. If you're that desperate that you had to play him, good luck, but I just don't trust him anymore. Callaway, I would play him over them, definitely. He's been on their list,
Super sleeper.
Yeah, he was a super sleeper of the week was Callaway on Good Morning Football. So apparently Alex watches that. You can ask her. She'll concur.
Oh, last one.
Uh-oh. Getting action here. No, I would not play Kenneth Gainwell. Ever.
Last one. We're dying with anticipation. Now, here we go.
You got to give me options. There's a lot of quarterbacks I like this week, but some of them might already be taken.
Oh.
Well, I picked up Matt Ryan in the league because he's been a good quarterback. Tua looked good last week and has a good matchup. They're playing each other, so both look good. But they might not be there in the leagues. For the week, see that's what I'm looking at. Like Yahoo's really high on Sam this week. Sam's done nothing. I don't see any reason to be high on him. If Jameis is there, I would pick him up this week. If Matt Ryan's there, I would pick him up this week. I'm trying to think of who else could possibly be there.
Jones.
No. I do, even though it's a bad matchup, have enough faith in Carson Wentz that I would probably consider playing him if I had to. After that, it's ugly. You get into these bottom feeder teams that run Mac Jones out there. There's no way to not play Carr because he's got all the weapons in the world. So I wouldn't be worried about Carr. Again,
What a wonderful thing you said, Chris. It's like I said before. He will be the fantasy winner this week over Carson Wentz. I stand by it.
Oh, he's got a much better matchup than Carson Wentz, but we've seen in that good matchup he scored 7 fantasy points last time. So maybe he'll get 8 this time.
That's the dream. But I want to thank everybody for stopping on by.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chris, for stopping on by. Like I said, every Thursday we have this over on YouTube, over on Twitch, now on Facebook. All the things you can ask. Any question, they'll come up all right here. I want to thank you, Mr. Jrush, as always, for being my co-host. I appreciate you all the time.
The camera worked. It's a miracle.
Yeah, we had a working camera, which is great. Appreciate you guys all. Check out tomorrow, Uncharted reaction trailer with, good old Tom Holland and Mark. Have not watched it, so I'm going to do a live reaction for you guys. Also, check out other videos over on the channel. And, of course, like I said, every week, every Thursday, all the fantasy, all the football, all you need to know. But until then, it is Braves playoffs, 1 win away from the World Series. And that's what I am looking forward to as well. We're double screening it today, sir. We're going to watch the Browns on one TV, and we're going to have the game on the other.
Okay. Let's see it.
Thank you guys for watching. Until next time.
Gotta aim into the camera.
There you go. Nailed it.